everyone, I'm Charissa.Willow with Charissa.Willow Mixed Media Art. In this video, I show how I made this whimsical loon piece using a variety of mixed media techniques. I have decided to do a series of pieces dedicated to my love of Minnesota. I thought the loon was the perfect place to start. I use a lot of techniques and a lot of different supplies for this project. First, I search through my gel print stash and choose a color story for my background. For this project, I will use a variety of stencils from my stencil stash, a 5x7 and an 8x10 gel plate, some stamps, and white Recollections ink, a few smoothing tools, some brushes, a few palette knives, some scissors, a Posca pen, a white gel pen, and a ballpoint pen, an Uhu glue stick, Mod Podge, clear gesso, a variety of acrylic paints, baby oil to clean my gel plate, some brayers, some white copy paper, and some black Recollections craft paper, a picture I printed out of a loon, and some words I printed out from my computer. Also some graphite paper and Krylon workable fixative. First, I make black and white collage papers for my loon using gel plate printing. I start by rolling out some white paint on the gel plate. I cover it with a stencil, then I use a sheet of black paper to pick up the first print. I use a second sheet of black paper to pick up the paint that's left behind by the stencil. I next roll out black paint to pick up the ghost print. There's still white paint on my gel plate, so I go over again with a thinner layer of black to attempt to get that ghost print. This time I get a truer ghost print. I then roll out black paint, place stencils, and lift the print with white copy paper. I repeat this process over and over. I am not being fussy, I am just experimenting to see what kind of collage papers I can get. The goal is to have a wide variety of collage papers that will work well to make a loon. If I don't end up using them for this project, I know it will be nice to have them for the future. On this pull, the paper sticks to the plate and tears, so I clean the plate with baby oil and a paper towel before continuing with my prints. After making quite a few black and white prints, I throw some color on the plate to pick up the last few ghost prints. Honestly, I was bored and a little frustrated with the black and white process. I just wanted to use a little color before putting away my gel plate. I'm so glad I did because I end up using 2 of these prints later. Here are all the prints that came out of this printing session. On some of the black papers, there is a lot of wasted space. Since my goal is to have as many patterns to choose from, I go back into the empty spaces and do some stenciling. I place the stencils over the empty areas and use a makeup sponge to gently dab the paint. When choosing my stencils, I'm trying to use the areas with circles or ovals that might make good loon feathers. To give myself a few more patterns to choose from, I also did some stamping. I forgot to set up the camera for this, but this is what the papers look like. Now I make my master board. These are the collage papers I have chosen for the background. I won't end up using all of them, but this is the color story that I want. The master board will be one large background that can be used for several projects. My hope is to have a series of coordinating pieces with a Minnesota theme. I'm working on extra large Bristol paper, 96-pound paper. I start by randomly spreading some acrylic paint. I don't get fussy about this at all. I know it will mostly be covered up. I just want a background of color for my collage papers to go over. I use a palette knife and a few brayers to spread the bright colors around. Next, I start cutting and tearing collage papers. I use Mod Podge to attach them to the board. Arranging these collage papers is fun and meditative. It does take quite a while, so I thought I would spend some of this time to talk about my inspiration for these Minnesota pieces. I was shopping with my mom and my aunt in one of those little northern lake towns. I was noticing that all the little shops had beautiful Minnesota artwork, but most of the artwork was rustic and cabin-like, using forest greens, reds, navy blues. I thought it would be fun to make some Minnesota-themed artwork in my bright and whimsical style. Once I have my collage papers arranged in a way that I like, I go over some of the areas, especially the borders, with acrylic paint. I use brushes, makeup sponges, and a small brayer to apply the paint. I like doing this because it makes me feel like the papers kind of melt into the background, versus looking like a bunch of adjacent scraps. Next, I go in with stencils and a makeup sponge and stencil randomly around the piece. Again, I am not trying to get precious about this. It's just a background and it's going to be cut into multiple backgrounds. Now for my loon. To start, I use a piece of copy paper, graphite paper, and black and white printout of a loon. I trace around the border of the loon, then inside the loon, wherever the pattern seems to change. When I remove it, I have a template for my collage. Using my photo as a reference, I choose different patterns to use for each section. I again use the graphite paper to trace the shape from my template to each individual collage paper. I repeat this one by one and play with the patterns until I like the way my loon looks. When I am happy with the papers, I glue my papers to the template using an Oohoo glue stick. I love these Oohoo glue sticks because they are very forgiving. If I put something in a place and I don't quite like the way it sits, I can peel it up easily and put it back down. I love the way my loon turned out, and I decide I will use a red gemstone for the eye. I fussy cut the loon and I am ready to decide where to place it on my masterboard. I think about what area I like best for his background. I try to decide if I want him in space or if I want water around him. I play around with this for a while. I use this mat several times to help my eye see what the loon will look like in a specific background. This helps me decide where he will look best. I cut out the portion of the masterboard that I want to use. After a lot of back and forth, I finally decide on these 4 gel prints to use as my waves. I use a glue stick to lay them down before covering them with matte Mod Podge. My loon sat like this for a long time. At this stage, I like it, but I'm not sure if it's done. I experiment with different collage papers to bring color to the background, white and black into the top. I even put a rainbow behind the loon at one point. I'm just not sure if it's done. I just feel like it needs something. I finally realized that if I find a quote, the text would bring black and white into the top. I often use inspirational quotes in my artwork. I ultimately decide on a Van Gogh quote that I love. There is still calmness, pure harmony, and music inside me. The full quote is, "Though I am often in the depth of misery, there is still calmness, pure harmony, and music inside me." I think this is so fitting for the loon, the majestic creature that embodies all these qualities, yet it can dive to depths of 200 feet. I attach the words to the piece and outline them with a black Posca pen. I attach his gemstone eye, and I use a black Posca pen along with a white gel pen to put tiny little finishing details. And then my piece is complete. I hope you enjoyed my video. Here are some up-close pictures of the finished piece. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media on Instagram at Charissa.Willow and Facebook at Charissa.Willow Mixed Media Art. I hope you have a beautiful day. Maybe today you will find some time to experience some majesty in nature. Maybe this is a chance for you to find still calmness, pure harmony, and music with inside what you see or with inside yourself. Until next time, choose to shine.